If the question is, the Torah is a book of instruction, mitzvahs, so it should start with the first mitzvah. Why does it start with a story? The answer is so that we'll know what to tell people who say that we stole the land. How does that answer the question?
Is Rashi answering that question though? So that's obviously connected to the mitzvahs somehow. I think it's the source of the mitzvahs.
How? Huh?
To make a dwelling place for a shop.
So let's summarize. This is the beginning of the Torah. And in practical terms, this is the beginning of the year. We're starting now. What should the beginning be? What do we start with? When a boy becomes a bar mitzvah, the bracha that we give them, the blessing that we offer, is that he should grow to be a chassid, a yireh shamayim, God-fearing, and a lamdan, a scholar in Torah. A chassid, God-fearing, and a scholar. And the obvious question is, isn't a chassid beyond the letter of the law? In other words, in addition to the letter of the law? So shouldn't one first follow the letter of the law, become a scholar in all of that, the practical necessary knowledge, then he can go on beyond the letter of the law. He can add to the letter of the law. So why is the formulation of the bracha that he should first be a chassid, then God-fearing, and then a scholar? Beyond the letter of the law doesn't mean make up new laws, invent your own, in your own mitzvahs. That's not beyond the letter of the law. Beyond the letter of the law doesn't mean outside the law. That's against the law. That's an outlaw. Beyond the letter of the law means prior to the letter of the law. What comes before the law? Because in Hebrew the word beyond, lifnim, can also mean before or inner. What comes before the letter of the law? Obviously, the giver of the law. Behind every commandment, there's a desire. The desire of the commander. So what is beyond the letter of the law? What is beyond the commandment? The commander. What is beyond the mitzvah? The mitzvah, the giver of the mitzvah. When do we become aware and concerned or devoted to the giver of the law? After we've kept all the laws and have become scholarly and knowledgeable in the letter of the law? Then we ask, by the way, whose laws are these? That would be totally wrong. Obviously, the giver of the law comes before the law. You have to know who you're serving, and then you can serve him with your whole heart. Da'as Hashem Da'as Elokei Avicha, know the God of your fathers, And then, v'avdehu b'lev shalom, then you can serve him with a whole heart. To put it in different words, mitzvahs are not a list of instructions. Mitzvahs are the tools with which we conduct a relationship. So what is Torah? Rashi asks, in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, Rashi asks, why don't we begin with the mitzvah? Like asking, why do we have to go out? Why do we have to date? Why do we have to meet? Just get married. Get started. Get married. Isn't that the purpose? Isn't that the goal? Who did you marry? You'll find out as you go along, which to a great degree we do. So what is the answer? The answer is marriage is not a list of behaviors. Marriage is a relationship. First you have to know who you're creating a relationship with, then you find out how to do it. The do's and the don'ts. I'll put it in different words. We could, and some people do, look at Torah and mitzvahs as a one-way affair. God created the world, it's His world, this is what He wants, behave yourself. That's not good enough. So the first Rashi, as an introduction to all of Torah, finds it necessary to make it clear. God created the world, what are you doing? This is a relationship. So God created you, and you just behave yourself? So God created a beautiful world, He lets you live in it, just don't mess it up. When you leave, put everything back where you found it. That's it? So Rashi says, no, that's not possible. It's not right. So one of the first things Rashi says is, why does it begin with the word Bereishis? Because it's hinting or suggesting two things that are called Bereishis. Torah is called Bereishis and Jews are called Bereishis. So what does that tell us? The Beis suggests Bishvil. For what purpose? For the purpose of Torah and Yidden. That tells us so much that even today, 3,300 years later, we need to be taught, and we need to be thinking about this, and we need to understand this. The first question that should disturb us, that should bother us, God created the world? Why? Why? Particularly from a Hasidic perspective. What is our beginning, our starting point, our fundamental assumption of reality? So again, you can look at it two ways. There is a world. It exists. I exist. It's real. Where did it come from? Who created it? So you look in the Torah, and the Torah says, oh, you don't know who created the world? Bereishis bara Elikim. God created the world. On this, Rashi says, is that really the question? Is this what I need to know? If you start with a completely different assumption, if you start with the assumption there was only God, there was nothing besides Him, He is reality. And yet, there's a whole world. Why? So what is the beginning of reality? If you take yourself for granted, I exist, I'm alive, I have needs, I want to understand, so explain to me who created the world. If you don't tell me who created the world, I'm still alive, I still have to function, I still have my needs. I'm real. And if I can't figure out who created the world, okay, so I'm not a philosopher. Rashi is telling us that that's not how you begin. Reality is that there is no world, there's only God. He is eternal, He always existed, only He existed, and then He created the world. What's your first reaction? Why? Particularly when we learn about how perfect God is and how infinite God is. So He was already perfect, He was already infinite, He was already eternal, He was already all-powerful. Why did He create a world? Why? That question puts you in the proper and godly perspective. Not there is a world and I wonder who created it. There is a God, and therefore the question is, why would He create a world? It also gives us a proper attitude towards the world, towards our physical existence, our needs, our demands, our problems, our aches and pains. We don't take them for granted. That's not what reality is all about. In fact, I don't even know why there's a world. So when I have a need and I feel uncomfortable or I'm suffering, or it's with a grain of salt. It's like, I need money. Actually, I don't even know why I exist in the first place. Or in different words, I don't know why I need money. So yes, I need money. I don't know why. So the question, why was the world created, puts the whole world into its proper position in reality. This whole world needs an explanation. It needs a reason. Why? So when Rashi reads Bereishis bara Elikim, or it's actually the Medrash, Bereishis bara Elikim, in the beginning God created the world, his first question is, why? Who needs this? Which tells you that he's not a slave to his nature. He's not a slave to the laws of history, or the laws of gravity, or the laws of psychology. He questions it all. Why? The person who takes for granted the existence of the world, that is reality, that's what we know for sure. Then when there's a disturbance, I'm not getting what I need, I don't see how the world is good for me, then I'm severely disturbed. Because this is my whole reality, and it's not working. Or I don't like it. And I don't have any other reality, so I really can't give up on this one, but I don't like this one. But when you ask the question, Why would God create a world? It immediately liberates you. You're not a slave anymore. So yeah, you have needs. But you can step back and look at your needs and say, I need this like a hole in the head. I don't need these needs. Why was I created this way? Why was anything created? Why create? Which also tells us another important thing. God is not a creator. He is the creator because he created the world. But he is not a creator. This is not part of his job description that if you're God, you have to create a world. No, you don't. You don't have to at all. So the question looms bigger and bigger. Why would he create a world? It's actually out of character for a king to create a world. A king has his servants build things, do the dirty work. Where does God come to create a world? And that's why the first response to Bereishis Bara Elikim is, why? For what? And the answer is, for Torah and for Jews. If it's for Torah and Jews, Torah we understand. God created the world because he wants mitzvahs. What's with Jews? We're not the only one who does mitzvahs. So we're being told that there's a relationship here that we are an active partner in. And it's not just do what you're told and don't disturb my world too much. Leave it the way you found it when you leave. There's something much more going on. So what does Rashi tell us? There will come a time when the nations, all the nations, Kol Umay Sa'ilam, all the nations of the world are going to accuse you of stealing the land of the nations. And what are you going to say? So the Torah tells us, God created the world, it's his world. He gave it to other people for whatever reason when he wanted to do that. And then, when he wanted to, he gave it to us. He took it from them and gave it to us. That's our answer to the complaint, to the accusation that we stole the land. So there are a number of questions here. Primarily, nobody steals land. You conquer a land. And that's the way it's been since the beginning of history. Whoever is stronger and conquers a land, the land belongs to them. How did any country become what it is? In fact, we conquered the land of Canaan, a land belonging to the people called Canaanim. Well, how did they get the land? Well, not long before that, they captured it from the children of Shem. Israel always belonged to Shem. When they divided up after the flood, there were 3 sons, and they divided up the lands. So Eretz Yisrael was part of the land that belonged to Shem, to a Semite. Canaan came and captured it from Shem. And that was okay. We don't find anywhere in Torah that they were punished for that, or that any nation was punished for capturing a land from any other nation. It's not forbidden. So we did the same thing. We captured the land from Canaan after they conquered it from Shem. So why would the world accuse us of being thieves? And even if they do, does the Torah have to tell us? God has to come down to Mount Sinai to tell us how to respond to that accusation? It's that serious? Torah has to begin with that? So the Rebbe explained this many times on various levels. The most practical is that there will come a time when the nations will accuse us, includes us as a nation. There will come a time when we will accuse ourselves of being thieves. And that's why we won't find a good answer, because we'll have the same question. We will feel guilty that we stole the land from other nations. So it's not just an answer or response to the accusation of others. Internally, we need to know what justifies our having this land. Because we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what kind of a morality is this to take the land of other people? So God has to tell us and reassure us, no, this is my plan. So the land belongs to you because that's what I want. And I decide, since it's my creation, I decide who gets what. That's a practical insight. To take that a little further, what does it mean to steal the land of the nations? And all the nations. The question is not Israel, that little piece of geography. The question is land in general. There's heaven and there's earth. There will come a time when the nations of the world will say, you are a heavenly people. You belong in heaven. If you live on earth, you're a stranger and you're occupying somebody else's land. You're stealing. Because the land belongs, the earth belongs to the people of the earth, the nations of the world. You're not one of the nations of the world, so you don't get to have a piece of this world. So go to heaven.
The other nations will see that as?
Mm-hmm. And that's why Rashi says all the nations, not just the ones living in Israel who were displaced. All the nations of the world will look at Jews and say, what are you doing on earth? You want to be godly, you want to be holy, stay in heaven. Earth belongs to us. And when we hear that question, we're going to ask it too. We won't know what to say, because it's true. That's why the Torah has to begin by saying the whole plan is not to be godly. The plan is to make what is not godly into godly. That's the purpose of creation. That a land that God gives to unholy people, Canaan were very unholy people, our job is to turn Canaan land into a holy land. So it's not enough to stay in heaven and be holy, as they're suggesting, and as sometimes we wish we could. The plan is turn an ungodly world into godliness. And that's why the way that Rashi words it. First, he wanted to give it to them, and then when he wanted to, he gave it to us. Why not simply say, God wants to give us the land, so he gives it to us. So it's telling us that first God wants the world to be unholy. First he gives it to Canaan. Then he has another desire, and that is that we should turn Canaan into a holy land. So now we've learned something personal and profound about God. Not only does he have a purpose, not only do we know why he would create a world, we know that he has a kind of a contradictory purpose. He creates things one way, but he wants it the other way. It's getting interesting. Of course, if you learn Hasidus, or a little Kabbalah, then you can back up and you realize that the way God created the world was by denying himself, or what is known as tzimtzum. In order for the world to exist, God has to restrict himself, he has to limit himself, he has to confine himself, and he has to hide himself. Because otherwise the world couldn't exist, we wouldn't have free choice. So he has to do something against his natural condition. I wasn't going to say nature, but against his infinite reality, in order to facilitate the existence of the world. So here already, he does something he does not like, because that's the only way to get to what he really likes. So now we know that he has a superficial purpose and he has a deeper purpose. Superficially, he does something he doesn't like, but it's justified because in the end it will produce and give him what he really likes. And the same is true with the neshama. The godly soul leaves heaven to come down into a body which it doesn't like, it does not want, and God does not want. But this descent is justified because it will produce and lead to a higher ascent. So now we have a better understanding of how the world is not justified. The existence of Earth, the existence of the universe is not justified. It needs justification. Why is it not justified? So earlier we said because what does God need this for? It's beneath his dignity to create like a builder or a potter or a creator. But now we're saying more than that. He has to restrict himself. He has to hide. He can't be openly infinite. Why would he do that? He sends the soul away from heaven down to earth. Why would he do that? So the question just becomes bigger. And then when you look into the details, you want to send the soul down to earth. Send the soul down to a holy land. Why are you sending Jews into a land of Canaan? So we're getting a better picture of how we are a partner with God in creation, not just guests for a while, and our goal is to not disturb the world any more than necessary. So So what really is the answer for our own benefit? What are we doing on earth? And in an unholy world? And as you go through history, the world seems to become more and more unholy. We end up in more and more unholy places, in all the four corners of the earth. We are exposed to all that unholiness. We pay a price. There's damage. There are losses. What justifies all this? Knowing that we're going into a world that is not holy, a land of Canaan, and our purpose is to turn it into a holy land. This is so necessary, this piece of information. Because we see when a terrible thing happens and we discover a dark side to the world that we hadn't seen before, we can become paralyzed, crippled. We can't function. It's too much. It's too dark. It's too messed up. Like after the Holocaust, people could not imagine bringing children into such a world. Wasn't justified. Why in the world would you do that? You've seen how ugly the world is. You're going to bring children into this world? It seemed cruel. And yet, here we are, all of us born after the Holocaust. So what happens is that if we know what our job is, if we know where we fit, we know the conditions of the world, and we know that we're here to fix it, then we can survive. We can recuperate after something devastatingly ugly happens. For a while we're overwhelmed. We can't imagine how we could possibly fix a world this bad. But knowing that we came into this world with a question to begin with, we know that we came into the world when it was the land of Canaan, and that our job is to turn it into a holy land, then no matter how ugly the world is, we know what we need to do. So we're not so shocked at the ugliness, and we're not discouraged from turning it into a holy land. So before you start doing mitzvahs, when you sit down with a child and you say, "Come, let me tell you what it is to be a Jew," what is the first thing you have to know? You are a godly people. The world was created because of you, and yet look where you are. In an ungodly place, a place where you're not welcome, nobody thinks you belong here. You don't feel like you belong here, because you don't. You don't. Why then are we here? To turn all this ungodliness into godliness. Now we can proceed. But what's going to happen after we've turned the world into godliness? Then what? Then God will thank us. Thank you very much. Good job. You can retire now. That's it. So we need to better understand what is the objective here. God creates a messed up world. We fix it. It's not messed up anymore. And now what? That's it? There was a descent. We turned around. We rose back to where we came from, maybe even a little higher. Okay.
Can I ask? When Hashem created the world, He didn't create a messed up world. We messed it up. We didn't mess it up? Yeah, yeah, I was gonna call her. She created, Gan Eden is perfect.
It could be that we contributed to some of the mess. But just the fact that it's earth is already messy. It's not heaven. The fact that it's finite is already surprising and unjustified. God is infinite, the world is only finite. What are we playing around with these little things when we could be infinite?
He created Adam and Chava, so obviously He created the mess in the sense that
Yes.
He
Yeah.
created the tree.
So when the Torah says, Bereishis, for two things called Bereishis, Jews and Torah. Torah, I understand. The purpose is to take an ungodly world and make it godly. How? Through Torah. Now, of course, somebody's got to do it. Okay, so Jews do it. But why are you saying God created the world for us? He created the world for the world to become godly. And He wants us to do it. So that's not two purposes. There's one purpose. We're just hired for the job. But the Torah says God created the world for two reasons. Not for one reason and somebody to pull it off. So what does it mean God created the world for Jews? That's like saying God created the world for Jews. But Jews are not going to be comfortable in a messy world. So He gave us mitzvahs to clean the world up so that we can be comfortable in this world as well. But then He created the world for us, not for the Torah. So it sounds like there should be one reason, either Torah or the Jews, and the other, either Torah or the Jews, is the tool. So either it was created for the Torah and we have to make it happen, or it was created for us and the Torah helps us. But what does it mean it was created for two things? Torah and Jews. What it's saying is this. There is the creation. That we know, that we experience, that we are part of. What else? What precedes this creation? What is the inner motivation? What does He really want? The answer is two things. He really wants mitzvahs and He really wants Jews. These are not secondary created beings. This is real. This is Him. He is Torah and He is a Jew. So His connection to Torah is not manufactured or created, and His connection to us is not manufactured or created. The godly soul is a little piece of Him, as infinite as Him, as eternal as Him. It's Him. Mitzvahs, that's Him. So there's what He creates, and there is Himself that motivates the creation. There's the mitzvah, and then there's the commander of the mitzvah. What do we know about the commander of the mitzvah? that he is Shabbos, he is kosher, he is holy, and we are him. We are a piece of him. So we're not created, mitzvahs are not created. These two things, Jews and mitzvahs, are just him. It didn't start 6,000 years ago, or 5,777. Of the two, Jews and Torah, what's the main purpose? What is his main objective? His main objective is to have a relationship with us. Because that's the only thing that was missing before he created the world. What was missing? He was infinite, he was perfect, he was eternal, he was all-powerful. What wasn't there? So we're told, and we say it, we mention it in songs. There was just him. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzur Nivra. He existed before anything else existed, so there was just him. So what does that tell you? That there was just him. So what was missing? Someone.
You're saying God is lonely?
Even a perfect being, infinite in its existence, eternal in its existence, is not content to just be.
When does the Torah come along? Because it didn't say that like Hashem looked into the Torah to see how it
The blueprint.
could. Right.
That's not the same as the reason. You don't build a house because of a blueprint. Oh, I have a blueprint, I must create a house. You follow the blueprint in creating the house, but that's not motivation for. Right? So we're saying two things. The Torah is his motivation, and the Torah is his blueprint. Since he is motivated by Torah, it therefore serves as the blueprint for how the world should look and how the world should work and so on. So, what was missing in the beginning? There was just him. What did he accomplish by creating the world? Now there's us. Us, we and him.
I feel like that makes him less godly, though, when you put humanistic attributes on a god.
Okay,
That he was lonely.
good question. To say that he was not content being himself sounds too humanistic, too human. Actually, that happens to be the one godly thing about us. The one godly instinct that we have is when we're not content being ourselves. Because by nature and by the dictates of our human soul, we are perfectly happy being ourselves. I'm perfectly happy being me. In fact, if you can help me be me, then you're welcome too. Anyone who wants to help me be me is welcome. But if you're not helping me be me, then you're not welcome. And go find your own world. This is my world. So the fact that human beings actually thrive on having someone else in their life, that's our only godly instinct. And we get it from him. So not being content with your own perfect existence is a purely divine. That's what makes him really God. And we got a little piece of that, so that we're also, when we're normal, when we're healthy, we're not content. Not because we're lacking anything, but because we're lacking someone.
Wouldn't the feeling of not being content be like, that's not, it doesn't seem like that would be, it seems like that's very all human still, like, just like not feeling content in general.
But if you think about it, it does make sense. Did God create the world for a purpose?
Yeah.
Isn't that too human?
But he would have been content either way.
No,
But-
but content with like the physical. You should be
But he
happy
wasn't.
with your like, you should be content with what you have physically in this world. I'm not, that's more spiritual.
So let's if you're uncomfortable with the word discontent, you don't have to use that word. He had a purpose. Does that make him less perfect? No. So when you say he had a purpose, it means he
He wanted,
beyond himself.
right. So, yeah, that's better than saying he was not content, so he wanted.
Yeah, it's better. But it means the same thing. We just don't want to say it. Don't say it. So, what is the end goal? The end goal is to have a relationship with us, that we should become one with Him. How do we get to be one with Him? Through the mitzvahs. Why? How? By doing mitzvahs, we become one with Him, because the mitzvahs are Him. The difference is, we got separated, we became a piece. The mitzvahs never got separated. So by doing the mitzvahs, we reconnect after the separation. We reconnect and go back to being completely Him, not just a piece of Him.
Is that with like non-Jews and the 7 mitzvahs of Noah too?
Not the same. Human beings are created beings who can acquire eternity through things that are eternal. So if they keep the mitzvahs and if they do their purpose, fulfill their purpose, then they acquire godliness. But they're not going back to their relationship with God. They're creating a relationship. That's what a creation does. But we are Him to begin with, so that when we do mitzvahs, we go back to being Him. We're not creating a new.
So we're bringing out a already connected relationship. We're just bringing it out. We're not creating it because it's there automatically.
Yeah. And that's very much like a child is completely part and parcel of its mother. Then it is born and starts to breathe on its own. Now it's only a piece of his mother. But as the child grows and develops a close relationship, they can go back to being one. Only this time, voluntarily. When the child was part of his mother to begin with, it was not his choice or her choice. That was just the fact. Now the child separates from the mother in order to be able to have a meaningful relationship with the mother and go back to being one. But if we never got separated, we would be one with Him, but not by choice. And that's not called a relationship. Torah is one with Him. It's not like he has a relationship with Torah. So in the end, it's not like, okay, we fixed this world for you, can we go now? You have a retirement plan for us? Now we go back to heaven and just sit there? No. The relationship just gets better and better. In fact, this is what we're expecting when Mashiach comes, and this is part of why we want Mashiach, is because the relationship will become real and what it was really meant to be after he comes. Then our relationship will really begin, not it will be over. Make sense?
This might be a silly question, but what's so great about a relationship?
Oh, you see? We've come full circle. First, needing a relationship is too human. As human beings, that's a very good question. What do I need somebody else in my life for? Got my own problems.
Well, that's not what I meant. Why a relationship is higher than mitzvah and Torah. I mean, it seems like you're saying that the relationship is higher than.
Again, you can substitute whatever words you want to use. What is accomplished by creating the world and giving us the Torah? In the end, when everything is achieved, what will have been accomplished? Torah? What will God have gained when all things are good?
Being one.
Voluntarily.
So where does that Parshas come from that chooses? It also comes from Hashem. So how is it really? How do we really have a choice?
Oh, we do. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, we have a choice. We, not our neshama. The neshama has no choice. But we have two souls. We have a choice.
It's still God.
And we've made bad choices many times. So, when we choose God, it is voluntary. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a relationship. It'd just be a clone, a robot. And that's why we have to turn the land of Canaan into the Holy Land, which means we have to turn our animal soul into godliness. Not just protect our godly soul and get out of here with as little damage as possible. We have to turn our animal soul into godliness. And that's certainly freedom of choice. Because the animal soul is not godly by nature. Or is not naturally godly.
Why is the connection so difficult?
Huh?
Why does it have to be so difficult? And I have another question. Why does he care so much about whether we have religion?
See, it'd be nice if every wife asked that about her husband. He's so great, he's so capable, he's so good. What does he need me for? Good question. And every husband should ask that question. Why does she put up with me? That's the nature of a true relationship. You weren't forced. Why'd you do it? You had other options. Why'd you choose this one? It's like we say in the Ein lanu melech ela ota. We have no other king besides you. Why? Were there other options? Were you tempted by other kings and you decided no? So what do you say? No other king. Oh, yeah, there's no other king. There are other kings. And you have to choose God as your king. But then the question is, why'd you choose him? Why did he choose you? What's so special about having each other? When you have an answer to that question, you are home free.
Wouldn't the answer be the Torah, and then the Torah, and then...
How would Torah be the answer?
Because Torah is godliness, so our relationship with God brings godliness into the world. So that would be why we have a relationship with God, to bring godliness into the world. But then it's not the answer because he chooses us regardless if we do that or not. So.
Okay. One final thought. If all nations take lands from other nations, why is everybody upset with Jews? Every nation conquers a land and becomes the master of that land. We come along and we say, Israel is our land, even when you conquer it. And that's what upsets everybody. Yeah, sure, if you conquer Israel the way everybody else conquers their land, fine. Then it's yours as long as you can hold on to it. But as soon as we conquer it from you, then it becomes our land. And we say, no. When the Babylonians conquered the land, it was still our land. When the Romans conquered the land, it was our land. And when the Turks, no matter who conquers it, it's ours. It's not up for grabs, like every other country in the world. So the nations of the world come and say, excuse me, why is Israel different? Why did you steal it from us in the sense that even if we conquer it, it can't be ours? And historically, it's fascinating that nobody really focuses on this. When the Turks governed Israel, what was Israel? It was Israel. It was never Turkey. When Rome ruled in Israel, was it Rome? No, it was Israel. It was the Holy Land. It was ours. So what upsets the nations of the world is not that we can conquer a land like everybody else. Well, they're upset about that too. But that's not what Rashi's worried about. The nations of the world say Israel should be part of what's up for grabs. Every country is conquerable. Whoever conquers it owns it. How did Israel become an exception? By the same token, if you practice a religion, then you are a member of that religion. Oh, but not Jews. Even when Jews practice another religion, no, they're Jewish. And if they practice no religion, they're Jewish. So if somebody comes along and conquers a Jew, raises him, nurtures him, trains him, educates him in something other than Judaism, like a people conquering the land of Israel. What is the land? Israel. You are raised by non-Jews. You are schooled in another religion. You master the other religion. You're the most famous spokesman for that religion. And what are you? A Jew. So the world says, the people of the world say, how come? Why is it this land is different from all other lands? Why are Jews different from all other people? Not negotiable. Even when it's the land of Canaan, it's just temporary. It's the land of Israel.
So but we ask the double standard, why the world holds us a double standard, but we hold a double standard.
There is a double standard.
Yeah.
And sometimes that double standard bothers us.
Yeah.
We're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So there are Jews in Israel who say, yeah, what gives us the right to this land? Because we once lived here? And by the same token, what makes us Jewish? I don't do anything Jewish. Because my grandmother was Jewish? Because my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother said yes at Har Sinai? That's why I'm Jewish. How does this work? This is not following the rules of the game. Why aren't we playing the game with everybody else? Why is Israel not part of the game? And that's why non-Jews will say, you're a heavenly people, you don't play by our rules, so go to some other place where they have different rules. But earth belongs to us. And on earth, every land can be conquered by anyone who conquers it and it becomes theirs. Now either play by the rules or go to heaven. When we convert you, you become one of us. But you're not playing. Even when you're the Archbishop of France, you're Jewish. And you want to be buried in the Jewish cemetery when you die. No, this is not playing by the rules. Sorry. If I convert and become Jewish, then I'm Jewish forever and my children are Jewish forever. But when you become one of us, it's...
But it seems like our cousins are playing by our rules now. They're trying to say that it was theirs to begin with.
Because they conquered it.
Yeah.
So, what does Bereishis tell us? By the way, the question, why does it begin with Bereishis, isn't just talking about those few words. The whole Chumash. We don't get to the first mitzvah until the second Chumash. So the question is, what we need the whole Chumash for? And the answer is, the first Chumash tells us who we are. That's it. Right? If you think about it, what does the Chumash Bereishis tell us? Who we are. First there were Adam and Chava. Then there was Noach. Then there was Avraham. Avraham had Yitzchak. Yitzchak had Yaakov. Yaakov had 12 children. They are the children of Israel. End of book. That's it. That's all we know. But when you finish the book of Bereishis, you know who you are. That's all. Next book will tell you what to do. We'll start giving you the mitzvahs. But the first thing, you have to know who you are. Once you know who you are, now you can start living up to your potential. Now you can be told what it is you need to do. But if you don't know who you are, then you're just doing things like everybody else does things. That's not you. We are not like everybody else, and the land of Israel is not like all other lands. It's the holy land, no matter how unholy it's treated, and we are a holy people, no matter how unholy we behave.
I don't understand how we're answering their question. Their question is, you're not playing by the rules. So we're saying, yeah, we're not. Is that the answer?
That is God's plan. That God created the world against certain rules, even within himself, because he had to limit himself and like that. So things are apparently one way, but the inner purpose is the other. So it looks like the world has to function according to the rules of the world, but no. The real purpose is the relationship that we have with God. So it's actually like a reality check. It's tuning us in to what is really true, because instinctively we would come to the wrong conclusion. Instinctively we would say, the world is real, the laws of the world are real, you have to play the game, and then we don't understand why we're here. Torah turns us around. God is real, creation is the question, why would he create the world, who needs this and what for? And that's what Torah is here to tell us. Who needs this? God. What for? For us and for the Torah. So now we have our orientation, and then we can start performing.
Can I clarify something? So like you said, it's reality check, it's an orientation, understanding what is real is Abishter, and what's not, this world is not the reality. So we're like, it just, because we're living in such a physical world, it doesn't seem just to justify all the darkness with the fact that, like, because we get this awesome relationship at the end of this, it doesn't seem justifiable. Why should everyone go through this world so that...
Everyone meaning non-Jews?
No, everyone, including Jews. So for us, maybe there's like a reasoning, but it's almost like in a dysfunctional relationship between a husband and wife. If it's really bad, they should really figure it out for the kids, because why should their kids go through it? So yeah, if Hashem and us have an issue in our relationship, we're in this dark world, we're in Goddess, why does everyone need to suffer because it's taking us forever to figure this out?
I'm not sure whether you're asking about God's plan, or you're asking about why we're so slow, or what we can do to hurry up, to end the suffering.
Really, I just want to know, are we justifying this entire experience of world by saying that at the end of it, we end up with a beautiful relationship? Well, the entire thing is a beautiful relationship. Is that the justification for this world?
Why the non-percent is that right?
It's not. I mean, like, I feel like maybe I could justify a Jew suffering, but no, you couldn't justify a Jew suffering for the relationship we'll eventually have. But I'll have to come to terms with that. If that is the justification.
Well, it depends what you're describing as suffering.
I'm not talking about challenges. Suffering that destroys a person. Not a challenge. Not something that helps a person grow.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah. I don't know if you can judge another person's suffering. But it seems
Not
so.
that it's actually all for the good. Even if something bad happens, even if it's suffering, even if it's really bad, there's a reason for it we don't know.
Does suffering ever destroy people?
Yes. I mean, but who are we to say that, like, it's fine, like, I can justify your pain?
Well, what does it mean to be destroyed? To just, like, to commit suicide? Like, is that destroyed? Like, what does it mean?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's like we're saying, okay, like, you know, Baruch Hashem, there are people who survived the Holocaust and went on to have children and build families, but there are people who survived the Holocaust and were totally broken for the rest of their lives. Like, why did that, like, we're saying, are we, like, gonna say, oh yeah, I know why that happened? Like,
No, the question is what happened? They were destroyed?
I mean, broken spirits, like, really broken.
They were unable to serve God.
Really?
Yeah, I can't really say that, can I?
They didn't serve God?
They're in like tons and tons of pain. That you can't.
True. But your conclusion is that they're destroyed.
No, not that they're destroyed, but I'm saying they're going through all this pain and all this suffering, and it's pain and it's suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
You
people
know,
who
and like yeah,
express
maybe
it
you
as
can
being
yeah, like
destroyed.
you can serve God in suffering, sure, but it's not like you don't have a purpose when you're suffering. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're still going through all this pain, all this suffering, and like we can't justify that.
It's not even that, it's the people who express it as being destroyed. There are people who go through suffering and do what they have to do, and then there are people who feel destroyed or feel like they're not productive anymore. So I think it's based on what people's response is to what happens, not like our judgment of what
Okay,
they're
but in the end, people who feel destroyed are not. It's just a bad judgment on their part. They underestimate themselves, and we're always off target. We either exaggerate our problems or we exaggerate our accomplishments. But nobody is destroyed. Everybody contributes. Sometimes painfully.
So what's destroyed?
Base and English was destroyed.
Huh?
Base and English was destroyed. That's how we describe it. What does that mean?
A building can be destroyed. Physical objects can be destroyed. Life can. So God had a desire, and that's why we are here. God has a relationship with Jews, and that's why the whole world is here. So we all need to be grateful and thankful to the cause that brought us into the picture. We have to be grateful that in God's desire we fit in, and the world has to be grateful that in God's pursuit of a relationship with us, they fit in.
I think sometimes through suffering, a person actually realizes God, God, the purpose. And suffering allows a person to realize that there is a God or that there is a purpose to the world. And the absence of suffering is almost, then you're still plugged in. When you don't suffer, then you still think that this world is the reality or like you're saying. And then suffering takes you out of it. You realize there's something else besides this world.
Yeah. That's true. The question is, does it have to be that way? Getting to know and appreciate God has to come through pain.
No, not necessarily.
Good.
But
So we can't justify the pain. But that doesn't mean that people in pain aren't accomplishing or aren't fulfilling a purpose. They might not think they are, but they are.
well,
The question is, why does that purpose come in such a painful way?
I feel like certain people know their purpose through pain. Others don't need to do the pain. Need to have the pain. They just know already. So
Or we can look at it like, yeah, you couldn't handle the pain, so you're not given any. You can't handle the truth, so you're not. Anyway, that's Bereishis. And then there's Noach.